Good evening and welcome to another episode of The Next Hearing, your portal to deep legal insights and critical analysis of the forces shaping our justice system and public discourse. I am Amod Bidhuri, advocate on record at the Supreme Court of India. Tonight, we embark on a journey into one of the most pressing issues of our time, media trials. In our modern democracy, a court of law operates on evidence and due process. Yet, in the court of public opinion, the verdict is often delivered by television anchors, social media influencers, and sensational news cycles before any legal judgment is made. Today, we ask, are media trials a necessary tool for exposing wrongdoings, or have they become a weapon that undermines fair justice? Are they merely a reflection of a free press, or are they used to deliberately distract the public from the real issues affecting our country and its citizens? In this session, we will dissect every aspect of media trials, from their evolution to the legal and ethical dilemmas they create, their political exploitation, the deep impact on society and democracy, and finally, the role of social media and digital manipulation. In this session, we will dissect every aspect of media trial, from their evolution to the legal and ethical dilemmas they create, their political exploitation, the deep impact on society and democracy, and finally, the role of social media and digital manipulation in amplifying these trials. We will also explore how these narratives are sometimes engineered to change public conscience and divert attention from policy failures, corruption, and issues that genuinely matter to the common citizen. So let's have an in-depth exploration of a phenomenon that is redefining our public sphere. Let's begin. Let's start by understanding exactly what a media trial is. A media trial occurs when news outlets, whether through traditional channels or digital platforms, go beyond mere reporting to interpret and even deliver a verdict on an ongoing legal case. Instead of waiting for the courts to determine guilt or innocence, the media, driven by ratings and clicks, creates narratives that often prejudge the outcome. For instance, consider the case of Sushant Singh Rajput in 2020, when the renowned actor tragically died. What began as a case of suicide soon morphed into a sensational murder mystery. Within days, news channels and social media exploded with allegations. Headlines screamed accusations, and hashtags like "Arrest Ria" trended relentlessly. Even though no conclusive evidence had emerged linking his partner, Ria Chakrabarti, to any wrongdoing, the narrative was so forcefully driven by media speculation that public sentiment assumed guilt well before any legal proceedings could confirm or deny those allegations. This is the core of issue. Media trials are not confined by the boundaries of legal due process. They operate in real time, fueled by controversy, public outrage, and sometimes political agendas. Their aim is not necessarily to inform, but to engage and often to sway away public opinion. Now, why does this happen? The reasons are manifold. First, controversy sells. A dramatic narrative that pits an accused against an impassioned public is far more compelling than the quiet legal proceeding. Second, with the advent of 24/7 news channels and the explosion of social media platforms, the cycle of news is faster than ever, leaving little time for careful fact-checking. And third, there is an inherent incentive from many media outlets to prioritize ratings over accuracy, even if it means compromising on the presumption of innocence. To illustrate further, let's briefly touch on a historical perspective. In the 1920s, in the United States, the Sacco and Vanzetti case of newspapers published highly biased opinions against the two immigrants accused of murder. The media portrayal influenced public opinion dramatically, even as the legal process unfolded. Today, while the platforms have changed from newspapers to Twitter, the core issue remains the same: the power of media to shape narratives irrespective of established legal processes. In summary, media trials transform a judicial process into a public spectacle, where opinions are formed on an incomplete information and the presumption of innocence is eroded. This sets the stage for further discussion on legal and ethical dilemmas we face today. Now let's shift our focus to the legal and ethical dilemmas posed by media trials. At the heart of our legal system lies the principle enshrined in Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. Every citizen has the right to life and a fair trial. This means that an individual must be presumed innocent until proven guilty by court of law. However, When media outlets declare someone guilty in the court of public opinion, often well before the legal process is complete, that fundamental right is undermined. In addition, we have legal provisions like the Contempt of Courts Case Act 1971, which is designed to prevent interference with judicial proceedings. There is also a section in IPC which restricts the publication of details that may affect the privacy or reputation of individuals involved in sensitive cases. Despite these safeguards, enforcement remains a challenge. The damage is often done in real time, with legal recourse coming too late to reverse public sentiment. Consider the Arushi Talwar case of 2008. Although the legal process took years and ultimately led to acquittal of the appearance, the media's relentless focus turned them into public pariahs. Their lives were irreversibly marred by the just judgment, a judgment not rendered by the courts but by sensational headlines and speculated talk shows. This case exemplifies the ethical conflict. While journalists have a duty to report, they also have an obligation to uphold the principles of justice and fairness. Ethically, journalists are expected to adhere to guidelines set by bodies like Press Council of India, which discourage trial by media. Unfortunately, the lure of TRPs and online engagement often outweighs ethical considerations. Journalists end up crafting narratives that blur the line between factual reporting and opinion, leading to a dangerous precedent where public opinion is shaped without the balance of verified evidence. In recent times, this issue has become even more pronounced. With real-time updates on platforms like Twitter and Facebook, even a rumor can spark a media frenzy. For example, in several high-profile political corruption cases, preliminary reports and leaks have been amplified, setting off a chain reaction of public outrage long before the investigation concludes. This not only jeopardizes the integrity of legal process, but also casts a long shadow over the lives of those involved. Thus, the legal and ethical dilemmas of media trials revolve around the erosion of presumption of innocence and the breakdown of due process, all in the pursuit of sensationalism and immediate public engagement. The question we must ask ourselves is, how do we balance the need for free press with the need to ensure that justice is not compromised by premature conclusions? Let us now transition to a discussion on how media trials are often exploited for political purposes, a topic that is both timely and critical. In this segment, we delve into how media trials are not merely about sensationalizing legal cases, they are also powerful political tools. It is no secret that media narratives can be weaponized to influence public opinion. Politicians and political parties often use media trials to divert attention from their shortcomings or to discredit rivals. By controlling the narrative, they can shift the focus from policy failures, corruption, or issues like unemployment and inflation to dramatic legal controversies that capture the public's attention. For example, let's examine the Delhi liquor policy case of 2023, when allegations of corruption and irregularities in liquor licensing emerged. Media outlets honed in on the arrest of few officials and political figures. While these arrests made sensational headlines, the real policy failures, such as regulatory loopholes and systematic corruption that allowed the process to be flawed, were largely ignored. The selective coverage helped deflect public scrutiny away from the deeper government issues and placed the focus squarely on the scandal, even though the scandal itself was not only a symptom of much larger systematic problem. Another vivid example is the Aryan Khan case in 2021. Here, the media's portrayal of high-profile arrest overshadowed the fact that the case was baseless from the outset. The narrative was constructed to portray a narrative of corruption and drug abuse, targeting a celebrity and his family. Although Aryan Khan was eventually acquitted due to lack of evidence, the extensive media coverage permanently tainted public perception, serving the due purpose of distracting the electorate from other pressing national concerns, like economic challenges and social unrest, and tarnishing the image of a political rival by association. Political exploitation of media trials is not confined to criminal cases alone. It also extends to civil controversies and public debates. Consider how, during election cycles, political parties often use selective media reporting to craft a narrative that favors them. Controversial cases or even minor incidents are blown out of proportion, serving as a convenient distractions that steer public discourse away from critical issues such as healthcare, education, and infrastructure development. In many instances, the orchestrators of these media trials are not only journalists but also professional public relation firms hired by political parties and corporate interests. Their aim is clear to manufacture consent, control the narrative, and ultimately sway public opinion in a direction that benefits their agenda. The critical takeaway here is that media trials are frequently orchestrated to change the public conscience. They are designed to evoke emotional responses that obscure rational debate on substantive issues. When the focus of public discourse shifts from a matters of public policy and national interest to sensational legal drama, it becomes much easier for those in power to maintain control, avoid accountability, and perpetuate systemic issues. Now, having explored the political exploitation of media trials, let's turn our attention to the broader impact on society and democracy, a subject that touches every citizen in our nation. Media trials do not occur in a vacuum, they are facts, ripple through society, influencing not only the individuals directly involved but also the very fabric of our democracy. Let's first consider the personal impact. When a person is targeted in a media trial, the damage to their reputation can be both swift and irreversible. Take, for instance, the Tarun Tejpal case, a high-profile controversy that, regardless of the final judicial outcome, resulted in long-lasting personal and professional damage. The accused and their families endure intense psychological trauma, social ostracism, and career setbacks that can last a lifetime. Beyond individual suffering, media trials also place tremendous pressure on our judicial system. Judges are expected to deliver impartial verdicts based solely on evidence. However, when public sentiment has already been swayed by relentless media narratives, the environment in which judges operate becomes charged with external pressure. In many cases, this can lead to expedited verdicts or decisions that are influenced by public outrage rather than the rule of law. Furthermore, consider the broader societal impact. When media trials dominate the news cycle, they effectively sideline the discussion of substantive issues. Instead of debates about policy reforms, economic challenges, or social welfare, the public is preoccupied with sensational legal dramas. For example, during periods of intense media focus on celebrity or political scandals, topics such as inflation, unemployment, or public health receive far less attention. This diversion not only misinforms the electorate but also weakens the democratic process by keeping citizens disengaged from critical issues that truly affect their lives. In addition, media trials contribute to a culture of trial by media, where judgment is rendered without accountability. The public becomes complicit in this process, sharing unverified news, fueling online mobs, and reinforcing a narrative that prioritizes sensationalism over truth. The cumulative effect is a degradation of public discourse, where facts are distorted and emotions are manipulated. It is vital to ask ourselves, when the headlines are dominated by fabricated narratives and partisan reporting, what does that mean for the integrity of our nation or our democracy? When public opinion is shaped by sensational media rather than by informed debate and factual analysis, the very foundation of justice and civil participation are at risk. As citizens, we must remain vigilant. The media is meant to serve as a watchdog of the state, not as a tool for societal manipulation. Ensuring that we focus on real issues such as government accountability, policy failures, and systemic corruption is essential for the health of our democracy. Let's now move to the next segment, where we explore the role of social media and digital manipulation, exacerbating the phenomenon of media trials. In today's digital age, the phenomenon of media trials has taken on a whole new dimension. Traditional news outlets are now joined and often outpaced by social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, and whatnot. In this new landscape, a single tweet or viral video can set off a chain reaction that influences public opinion before facts have been verified. Consider the so-called Twitter trials, where hashtags, trends, and narratives are established in minutes. During the anti-CAA protest and the Delhi riots of 2020, we saw how social media could be manipulated to spread misinformation. Fake news and doctored videos circulated widely, fueling anger and inciting unrest, long before any judicial or government response was possible. Moreover, professional public relation firms have entered the fray. Political parties and corporate interests now routinely employ PR agencies to craft and control media narratives. These agencies do not wait for the truth to emerge, they manufacture it. For example, in several recent political controversies, We have seen how carefully constructed online campaigns have diverted attention from substantive issues. By controlling the narrative online, they effectively preempt the legal process, ensuring that by time the court speaks, public opinion is already set in stone. Digital manipulation of media trials play a role in economics of media trials. Sorry. Digital manipulation also plays a role in the economics of media trial. Clickbait headlines and sensational posts generate enormous revenue through advertisement. This financial incentive further encourages media outlets to prioritize shock value over factual accuracy, creating a vicious cycle where controversy and misinformation feed on each other. What does this mean for our society? When the digital sphere becomes a battleground for manufactured narratives, truth becomes a casualty. People are bombarded with conflicting reports, making it increasingly difficult to discern what is real and what is fabricated. The result is deeply polarized society where trust in traditional institutions, including the judiciary, is eroded. In a sense, controlling the digital narrative can be as powerful as controlling the legal narrative. The stakes are high. If public discourse is dominated by digital manipulation, then the democratic process itself is compromised. As we are near the end of our session, we will now move on to our final segment, that is conclusion. In conclusion, let me leave you with this thought. If media is truly the fourth pillar of our democracy, then it must act as a guardian of truth rather than a harbinger of sensationalism. Our society depends on informed, rational debate, and that begins with responsible reporting. Thank you for joining me for this comprehensive exploration of media trials. I invite you to share your thoughts, continue the conversation on our social media platforms, and subscribe to the next hearing for more in-depth discussions on the issues that shape our world. This is Amod Bidhuri signing off. Stay informed, stay critical, and let's work together to ensure that justice is served not by the rush of headlines but by measures, scales of law.